Welcome back, guys. Good morning. Hope you guys had a great day yesterday, because I did. And I bet you guys did too, because we had game two of the NBA Finals, and the Suns took a commanding 2-0 lead, took advantage of the home court. And we got to see how game three is going to go. Well, we're going to talk about that later. But first thing we got to talk about is Giannis stepping up with 42 points. What are you guys' initial thoughts on this?
Well, it just further proves that he can be the guy on a championship team because we'll talk about it later, but if pretty much anybody else on the Bucks stepped up with him, they probably could have won this game. 42 points, 12 rebounds, 11 of 18 free throws. It's not good by any means, but for Giannis, it's acceptable. You're not gonna be mad at him for making, what is that, like 60-something percent. So, I'm still just waiting. If he can get the free throws to like 70, 75 consistently, he's going to be a even bigger problem for every team.
Yeah, I think one thing that we got to see last night is that knee is okay. The knee is fine. He's good to go. And like you said, Mike, some of these other guys, if they had just stepped up, Drew Holiday went 7 for 21. And then Chris Middleton had a pretty bad game too. So honestly, if any of these guys contribute just a little bit more, the Bucks probably win that game. But it was a huge performance from Giannis. But obviously last night we found out that that's just not going to be enough. I think that was the difference.
42 points. I think he silenced his haters, his doubters a little bit. Well, not a little bit, I think a lot. Because I didn't see this coming. I don't think you guys saw this coming, especially after game one where it looked like he was just testing out the knee. And when he only had 20 points, though it shocked me that he played 40 minutes. I did not see that coming because he played 35 minutes last game. So I thought it would be around the same time. But 40 minutes after that gruesome knee injury that he had, because to me, I thought he tore it. I think any other player or anyone else, that's a torn ACL, torn MCL, torn something. Because the way it went back, it looked terrible. But I love the way he was aggressive. He was getting his turnaround fadeaway. That shot was going down. I think DeAndre Ayton has his hands full, just posting up with power. He was doing with finesse, and Giannis is he's just proving why he was a 2-time MVP.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's go to the other two, Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday, struggling. It's like you guys said, if one of these guys were to not step up, but I say just make their shots, then this game could have gone in a different direction. Because to me, they just couldn't get that run to get the lead. They were always there in striking distance, but they couldn't get over the hump. Chris Middleton, he couldn't get a shot going. I saw for some parts of the game he was a little passive, like he wasn't engaged as much as he has been in the playoffs. And then Drew Holiday was aggressive. I'll say that he was aggressive. And Michael, like how I said, like a majority of the time last game, I'd rather have them overshoot than undershoot, because that just shows that they're not complacent. They're not in the basketball is not in their head. They're actually just going out there and trying to make a difference. So Drew Holiday, I'm not worried about that much. I'm worried about him not making it, but I like the aggressiveness.
Yeah, I thought the biggest thing was that. Oh, sorry, Michael.
No, go ahead.
I thought the biggest thing was, even though those two guys did struggle, I thought Drew Holiday's defense was really good. I thought he was making a big impact defensively with the way he was causing problems for them. But what made me mad, and I said this last night in our group chat, I was going to go off on this, so here it is. I am just upset with Mike Budenholzer. And I guess you can put some of the blame on Drew Holiday too, because honestly, we all know that they struggled shooting the ball, but the problem here, in my opinion, was honestly with Giannis dropping 42, I think the biggest problem was that they couldn't get stops. and it was a high pick and roll every single time. It was between Booker and Chris Paul. They just hand the ball off to whoever Connaughton was guarding, and they would just go at him. And it's not Connaughton's fault. I mean, those are two guys who are pretty hard to guard. But if you're Drew Holiday, I don't understand why you're not going over the screen and going with the ball handler, why you're not going with the ball. And I saw it too many times, and I don't know if that's his fault for not wanting to do that and trying to save himself for offense, or if that's Budenholzer and his game plan. But things like that, I think, cost the Bucks the game last night. So that particularly, the defensive side of the ball not adjusting the way they should have, and it doesn't help that they couldn't score the ball that well outside of Giannis.
My thing for the Pat Connaughton pick and rolls, I think we're now seeing like how important DiVincenzo was to the Bucks, because that would have been DiVincenzo who could, like, no offense to Connaughton, but can actually play defense like at a high level. But I mean, that's what Jesse and I talked about on Wednesday. Like, the pick and roll is the issue, because on Wednesday or on Tuesday when they played, they were just targeting Bobby Portis. They were just switching whoever had Portis onto, and then he would be guarded by Chris Paul, or Chris Paul would be guarded by him, and he would just tear him up. But for Middleton, I mean, like you said, Jesse, Holiday, 17 points. I think that's enough from him. He did shoot really bad, but 17 is enough. He did a lot of extra stuff. But, I mean, this was a terrible game from Middleton. 5 for 16, 0 free throws, 11 points. Like, I don't know what's going on with him. He's just not – this has not been his playoffs. He's just hot and cold every other game. So, I mean, he only had 16 shots, which I feel like for 41 minutes is a little low for Middleton. But, I mean, his plus-minus was -15, so I think that says it all for him.
So I want to piggyback on what Prabhat said about Mike Budenholzer, because Pat Connaughton, I think there should have been an adjustment towards the end. I think personally that Pat Connaughton should have been taken out in the end, because there were timely like errors that he made. He missed like 2 out of like 4 threes in the end. Like crucial shots that he needs to make, wide open shots that he was given to him that was kicked out to him that he missed. I think, and also that timely turnover when he tried to pass it out instead of shooting it. I want to say Jay Crowder intercepted it. That, I think in those situations where you need a more reliable shooter like Bryn Forbes, because Bryn Forbes, I'm not trying to say that Pat Connaughton is a scrub or can't shoot. I think, but in that certain situation, Bryn Forbes, I think, would have been a much more reliable shooter and scorer rather than Pat Connaughton, who was struggling in those moments. Because Pat Connaughton, for his standards, he had 14 points, and I want to say he was 4-9 from the three. That's not bad. Making 4-9, that's not bad. But I think in those instances, Bryn Forbes would have made those shots, and he's proven before that he'll take and make big shots because he was a product of the Popovich system, and those are still shots that he is used to taking. So that's my 2 cents on the whole Budenholzer thing. Drew Holiday, great defensive play. One thing that stood out to me with Drew Holiday was when he had the jump ball on DeAndre Ayton. When he went up straight up vertically with them, that showed to me that he's locked in. Even though his offensive game couldn't really get going, he's locked in defensively. And probably how you were talking about the pick and roll with Drew Holiday, in the beginning he did show that he was going over the pick, and it was causing some problems for Chris Paul. But like we've seen the whole entire playoffs, that pie pick and roll has been affecting everyone, not just the Bucks, but. Who knows what adjustments they're gonna? But that's gonna be our next topic. What adjustments do the Bucks have to make for Game 3 to take one game? Because I think if they lose one of these 2 games at home, I think the series is over.
Yeah, they've got to win out at home. The Suns are too good. If you give them especially if you give them a 3-0. I mean, we already know that no team in NBA Finals or any team ever has come back from a 3-0 deficit. And then 3-1's only been done by one guy ever by the name of LeBron James. So I wouldn't count on it. You have to win both at this point. If you don't win both, the series is pretty much over, I would say. So, like I said, the biggest adjustment they have to make, and as the number one defensive team in the NBA this year, they've just got to fix that high pick and roll. I know it's easier said than done when you've got two guys like CP3 and Book who can pretty much score from anywhere. And by the way, CP3, he has been shooting lights out from three this series so far. He has looked great. But stuff like that, it makes it hard to guard. But they've just got to do something. If Budenholzer is going to try and find someone deep in the roster to make a defensive adjustment, I don't know who that could be, but I think that's what they have to do because I don't think the offense is their problem. I think they can get their offense from 1 through 4 with those guys. And then you can afford to have one guy who's just there primarily for defense. Move Tucker up. I don't know, but they've got to do something because it's just not working right now. Other than that, I think if they can just try and limit at least one of the two between Book and CP3, they have a good shot to win both games. But if both of those guys continue to just do what they've been doing and playing their game as they want freely without much to combat them offensively, I don't know how the Bucks can really get either of these in their homestand.
For me, the biggest adjustment, it still has to be the pick and roll. Again, that's what I said on Wednesday, and I know Budenholzer's not listening to us. I wish he would, but he's not hearing what we're saying. But they do say it's like the most unstoppable play in basketball, but it's also the simplest. So there has to be some kind of formula that he can make, being one of the top coaches in the league, to try and battle it somehow. But another thing that Jesse was preaching in the last series is I don't know why Brook Lopez – I don't know why he's only on the 3-point line, especially in this series, since we've seen that Jay Crowder is guarding him. He should be able to take him to the hole, post him up. That's what he did in Game 5 against the Hawks, and he had 33. I get that Giannis and him both near the hoop will kind of congest it, but they can take turns going in. Those are two things that I would like to see at least.
Yeah, I have two. So my first one is also that Brook Lopez, that Brook Lopez adjustment where we got to see him get more paint touches, and you understand that Giannis is a liability from 10 feet and out because he can't make a consistent bucket, can't make a consistent shot. Most of his points came from inside the paint with drives or little dump off passes, offensive rebounds. But going back to that, I think Brook Lopez needs to assert himself more because we already see in this playoffs that how much of a difference maker he is when he is in the post, when he went back to Brooklyn Brook. So hopefully that Brook Lopez gets those touches, and if not, a name I want to see more out there is Bobby Portis, because also like Brook Lopez, when Giannis was out, Bobby Portis stepped up big, and last night Bobby Portis only had 5 minutes. I think if they are going to go to that small ball lineup, when Giannis is at the 5, I think Bobby Portis is a perfect 4. And then you have Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, and PJ Tucker right there. I think that's a solid pick. That's another thing that you can do with taking Pat Connaughton out instead of putting Bryn Forbes. You have just because Bobby Portis, to me, he's a big body, he's physical, he's not afraid to play defense. If you get the switch on him, even though that Chris Paul and Devin Booker did score on him, you got to think about he was there on multiple times on defense. It's just those guys are great shot take and makers, and they make difficult shots. So I would like to see Bobby Portis out there more and Brook Lopez to get more touches. Those are my two adjustments. Now let's go on the Suns' perspective on this. So Devin Booker shined with 31 points. Is he in the discussion for MVP now? Also Chris Paul? Or who would you guys give the lead to right now after Game 2?
I would say right now, I would still say it's CP just because he had a really, really good Game 1. And I think that kind of set the tone for the series. And he was still pretty good last night too. I think he had 23 or 21 and 8. So I would still say CP's there, but I think Devin Booker is right there in the running with it for him. He's I talked about how good CP3's been shooting the three ball. He's right there. He's been shooting lights out. Seems like anytime you give him just a little bit of space, if your hand isn't right in front of that ball, it's gonna go in. He doesn't need that much space to get a bucket, and I think honestly, you could argue that last night was probably one of his best games of the playoffs. The way he shot it, he just looked really good, and he just looks ready for the moment. Honestly, he doesn't look phased by the finals. I mean, we don't know. I mean, the series is far from over, but our hot take, Jesse. Sorry, I don't know why my audio cut out, but our hot take, Jesse. We said he might have a 1 or 2 games where he gets a little shaken up. I don't know if that's gonna happen anymore. He looks pretty comfortable, so if he can keep that up and keep scoring like this, then it'll be between those guys. But I say right now, CP3 has just a slight edge.
I may be wrong, but I feel like this year it's like the closest battle for Finals MVP from the first 2 games.
Oh, yeah.
Usually LeBron is in the finals, so if his team wins, he's going to get it. But then even going back, I feel like Durant, when he was winning with Golden State, he kind of pulled away from Curry pretty early on in the finals. But I honestly don't know who it is right now. I think probably Chris Paul is still in the lead. But, I mean, both of Devin Booker's games, it's hard to not give it to him. I mean, it depends. It obviously depends on the next games. But for Devin Booker, I feel like the whole time we've been doing this podcast, we say the same thing, that he just keeps impressing us and showing us he's ready for the moment and all that. So I feel like I don't even need to say anything anymore. But, I mean, 12 of 25, 7 of 12 from 3. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, Devin Booker dubbed the next Kobe Bryant by many. I personally don't think he's there yet. I think he's still got more to prove. But one thing I do love, he was 0 for 4. Started the game 0 for 4. But ended up making 12 of 25, like you said, 7 of 12 from 3. It was that fourth quarter that the killer in him came out. I want to say he made like 4 threes in the fourth quarter at timely moments, because it was whenever the Bucks were like coming in close, striking distance, Devin Booker would just make a 3-pointer just to extend that lead and destroy the morale of them. So Devin Booker did his thing, 6 assists, so he was playmaking alongside Chris Paul. It's another threat that you have to watch out because he can pass the ball. But Devin Booker in that mid-range, just that snake dribble that he does when the high pick and roll, when he gets the big on top of him, in and out dribble, cross left, right, and then pull up right there free throw line. It's just a thing of beauty. And another thing Devin Booker I gotta give praise for, his defense. Devin Booker, even though he's not really known as a defender, he has been doing some timely defensive plays when they need it most. When he gets a switch on someone, or when he's guarding Chris Middleton or Drew Holiday, he makes it difficult for them. So that's something I've loved seeing on Devin Booker. Continues to improve, continues to show why he was an all-star, why he's a superstar, why did we overlook him for all those years before when we should have had our eyes on him. So Devin Booker, if he won MVP, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be upset with it. Right now, I still have Chris Paul winning just because Chris Paul is the driving force of that team. If we're being honest, Devin Booker is he's the number 2 guy in my opinion. But if anyone's gonna get it, it should be Chris Paul, because I would say just because he's the reason why they got to the finals. Not saying that Devin Booker didn't do nothing, but that major change in the offseason came from Chris Paul. And Chris Paul continued to ball out and have his double-doubles with his assists and his points. This shouldn't be a reason why he's not MVP. So last night, after DeAndre Ayton had a subpar game for his standards, another Phoenix Suns player stepped up, Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges had 27 points and 7 rebounds, 3 of 9 from the 3-point line, 8 of 15 from the field, and 8 of 8 from the free throw line. What are you guys' thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think we all knew that he could be that guy. I think honestly, he's kind of been like a forgotten piece of this Suns team, but like what he provides to your team is like invaluable. That's a guy that any NBA team would want. He would fit in anywhere. He can shoot the ball. He can defend. He's long. He can do. He does everything that your team needs, and most importantly, when you need him to score, he can score. He's not afraid to shoot the ball or get his own buckets. So I think last night was a really good example of that. Stays calm, takes good shots, and you know, when you have a guy like that who's putting up 27 already, in addition to having to worry about Booker, CP3, Ayton, it's even more help for your team. So a guy like that, I think, is someone the Suns have like really appreciated and used this year. A guy that I think everyone knows and respects can be like a really good player in this league. And I just think last night was another showing of that. Honestly, I think he's proved time and time again that he's a vital part of this team, and that he's responsible for helping this team win when they need it.
Yeah, like Prabhat was saying, he's like everyone wants this type of player, like a 3-and-D guy. But the thing that makes him different, that kind of surprised me in this game, he can once like he gets ran off the 3-point line, it's not like he's a fish out of water. Like he can still score off the dribble. He was 8 of 8 from the free throw line. He can get fouled. He can go to the free throw line. So that's just like, just another like factor to his game that the Suns must love, because he's not. You see there's some 3-point shooters in the league. If someone closes out on them, they kind of just pass away. There's no dribbling, creating your own shot. But it seems he has that. He's just a perfect fit for this team. All their starting 5 is just like a perfect fit.
The one game DeAndre Ayton struggles, Mikal Bridges steps up. I think the Bucks didn't really expect this, even though they should have read the scouting report, because Mikal Bridges, he's been doing this all playoff long. He's been making timely buckets for them, especially that corner 3-point shot. I don't know what it is and how he gets open every time, but he always finds a way to get open in that corner and make those shots. And I think this was a game that the Bucks could have stolen, but like I said, every time they got close to making that run to get over that mountaintop to take a lead, they couldn't do it. And Mikal Bridges was a factor in that too, because who would expect if I were to tell you Devin Booker gets 31 points, we would expect that. If I were to tell you Chris Paul, he's going to get 23 points, we could expect that. DeAndre Ayton has 10 points. I wouldn't expect that. I think that's a struggle game for him. But Mikal Bridges, 27 points, I would not expect that either. So I got to give props to him. Stepped up big when his team needed it, because I think if Mikal Bridges doesn't have a big game like this, the Suns lose. And we're at a 1-1 series. So I tip my hat to Mikal Bridges for stepping up. He's showing why maybe this is not a big 3. Maybe it's a big 4, because he does play an important role. He is that perfect 3-and-D guy that every team would want. So Mikal Bridges, you did your thing, man. Salute. And for our last segment, we're going to talk about the Torrey Craig injury. How do you guys think it's going to affect the Suns going forward? Because now that
Dario
Saric is out for the playoffs. We don't know how severe this one is, but it's gonna take a toll on the bench, in my opinion.
Yeah, you hate to lose. Honestly, yeah, another great defensive piece for your defense, who the Bucks traded away. I'm sure they would have liked to have a guy like him on their team right now, but Torrey Craig is just another guy that is a positive asset for like any team. He will help you on the defensive end. He'll pick up anyone, and then most important, and he can get you buckets too. He can score when he needs to. So in a way, it's completely different play styles, but like the same kind of value. He brings the same thing that Bridges kind of does in a way. He can be that guy off the bench to play defense and score for you when you need. He's not a liability on either side. So honestly, I it'll affect them, but I don't think the Suns have to worry too much because I mean, this is one of like the most complete and like best teams in the NBA. I think they have talent everywhere. And honestly, in the minutes after, in the whole fourth quarter before when he went out, yeah, it was right before that third ended. He got hurt by Giannis, right? So yeah. So I think honestly, I don't think it'll affect them too much. I know he's a great player and he does a lot of great things that any team would want, but the Suns are a deep team, and I think that fourth quarter was pretty showing. Now, Mike Budenholzer, if he's smart, might take advantage of that when some of these starters come off the floor and they don't have as many defensive players out at one time. He might attack that. I don't know, but I think it really depends on how the Bucks choose to go about it because that bench unit is kind of diminishing every game. It's getting shorter and shorter with over these last two. So I think it's more so how the Bucks approach it rather than how it's going to affect the Suns. Because I think regardless who they put out there, they're going to be able to play their style of basketball. That's just who the Suns are.
I agree. I think it's not going to be like a detrimental factor to the Suns. I mean, it's just kind of stacking onto the Dario Saric thing. So I think the starters are just going to play more. Frank Kaminsky will probably have to play more, or Nader. One of them will like get those minutes. But if this happened like two series, like in the second round, it would be a much bigger deal, obviously, because then you'd have the more tired legs going into the finals. But since we're in the finals now, it doesn't matter as much. I feel like they're kind of just running on adrenaline. They'll all play. All the starters already all play around 40 minutes. I think they'll probably all get above 40 now because, I mean, they just have to be in. The two cams will still get their like 12 or whatever minutes. But the Suns look too good even without Torrey Craig and Saric to lose right now.
I got to touch on what Prabhat said on the bench is diminishing. I mean, this Suns team doesn't have many bigs to begin with. So, who do you have playing at the best of big? They really have. I want to consider Cam Johnson a big, but he plays that power forward role. You have Drake Crowder who can slide to the 5 if needed be, and then you have DeAndre Ayton. I think if you can get foul trouble on one of these guys, which I think they can do, the Bucks can do this. If Giannis wants to, when he drives in, he can get those foul calls. If Brook Lopez gets to the paint and forces DeAndre Ayton to foul him, you got to foul out one of these starters, in my opinion. Whether it be Jay Crowder, well, not really Jay Crowder. If you go foul, you have to get DeAndre Ayton in foul trouble because he's really their only center that they have, the true center that they have. And if you could take that guy out, I think it just makes now that they're smaller than them, it makes it easier for Giannis to go inside the paint and get his buckets more. Torrey Craig was a vital piece for this team. He showed he was like you said, Michael, like Mikal Bridges. He was a perfect 3-and-D guy. Could step out and shoot the 3 ball. Could play defense on anyone. Could switch onto anybody. Not afraid of the moment. But I think if the longer the series extends, it's gonna affect them way more. Whereas if the Suns are able to win at least one of these games and then close it out in say 5 or 4, it's not looking in hindsight. It's not going to be that bad of an injury. But hopefully he comes back healthy. Hopefully we get to see him full strength because we never want to see people get hurt, especially in that way because it looked like an ankle and a knee injury at the same time. Yeah. But hopefully he come back for game 3. Nothing structural is done to his knee or his ankle, and we get a full healthy Suns team. So what are our predictions of game 3? What are we going with? We're gonna start with you, Prabhat.
I don't think I've done our series predictions unless you guys did those Wednesday. But
I just had a group message 7, Suns in 7.
All right. I think I said something stupid like Bucks in 5. So I'm gonna change that a little bit. I'm gonna try and be a little more logical. I just think the way the Suns are playing right now look too good. Uh, they're just the most complete team in basketball this postseason. Honestly, from top to bottom, they look great. So with the way they're playing right now, I'm gonna say Suns in 6. I don't think they're gonna
I'll give you what's your
gentlemen
prediction
sweep.
for Game 3?
Game 3. Oof, man, that's tough. I think I'm gonna go Suns. Honestly, I don't know how the Bucks are gonna respond to this. I mean, it looks tough for them right now. I think I gotta go Suns.
For the whole series, before in our group chat, I said Suns in 5, so I'm gonna stick with that. It's looking like that could happen. For Game 3, I really want to say the Bucks are gonna win. I think if Budenholzer makes some adjustments, and like Jesse was saying, if they do go after Ayton and try and get him in foul trouble, they got the crowd behind him. There's not going to be as much chanting. The free throws for Giannis, maybe he'll make some more. I don't know. I'm gonna go Bucks in Game 3, and then the Suns close them out after.
I got Bucks in Game 3, and I say it's going to be a 15-point win. 15-point plus win.
Oh,
All right.
Yeah.
I think the home crowd advantage is going to help Giannis after a big game, a 42-point game. I want to see that. I think we're going to see that same energy in Game 3 because there was a certain point in the game where Giannis was just like give me the ball, and that's the Giannis that we love to see. So I think we're going to see that Giannis. I think the home crowd advantage for him is going to step up his game. I think Drew Holiday is going to live off the adrenaline from the crowd. Same thing with Chris Middleton. Hopefully Brooke Lopez can do something. Hey, Mike Budenholzer got to make your adjustments. If you make your adjustments, your proper adjustments, you guys are going to win this game. So I got Bucks in 3. I got Bucks in Game 3. Hopefully but if they do lose, it's going to come at the hands of Chris Paul because he's the vet. He's been there and done that.
Definitely.
So that's going to wrap up our show, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend.